Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. The business with Conor Benn beating Chris Eubank Jr. got me thinking about Nigel Benn, because I'm old enough to have followed Nigel's career from start to finish. I saw him fight, and I loved him. I just loved Nigel Benn. When it came to Eubank versus Benn, I was always in the Benn corner. I liked Eubank. I thought his eccentricities were something new. I think he sort of flitted, as he does now, between talking, a lot of quite profound sense and also a load of bollocks. But that's Chris Eubank Senior. But I was always a Ben guy. I liked his down to earth grittiness. He was very much a fighter rather than a boxer. Although he did have underrated skills. There were times, like against Henry Wharton, I thought he boxed very well in that fight. But when people talk about Eubank and Ben, they usually talk about those fights, maybe the Michael Watson fights. Michael Watson fought Eubank Senior twice, suffered that tragic injury in 91. He also knocked out Nigel Benn in 6 rounds. First man to beat Benn, who came in, I think, with 26 wins, 26 KOs, burnt himself out, and essentially ended up just kind of almost quitting. I don't like saying that. He was just so absolutely exhausted, and Watson just beat him up and knocked him out. Brilliant performance by Watson. But the one fight that sticks in my mind with Nigel, well, there are many fights, but one of them that I think really, even now, is underrated, even though people do occasionally mention it, it's the fight with Iran Barkley in America, which was an unbelievable tear-up. You've heard the old cliche, there was more action in that 1 round than there was in most 12-round fights. Usually it's an exaggeration. With this, it isn't. It just isn't. I mean, Nigel Benn versus Iran Barkley, it took place in 1990. All right. Like I say, it was a 1-round stoppage for Benn. The 3 knockdown rule was in effect. And Benn was on the floor Barkley was on the floor 3 times, and it got stopped. But that just doesn't tell the story. I mean, like I say, it was in Vegas, and Benn, the dark arts were on display. The American commentators, I can't remember who they were, but I know they were fuming. They thought Benn should have been disqualified, and the reason was, I mean, Benn came out and within a second or two, he'd thrown a knockout right hand punch, which got Barkley's attention. And Barkley sort of shuddered a bit, and then Benn tore after him, and within 20 seconds, Barkley was on the floor. Benn was throwing the big right hand. Barkley was swaying around. He ended up falling to the ropes, and Benn put him down. And then Barkley sort of jumped up, and Benn hit him again. Barkley's still waiting for the standing 8, and Carlos Padilla, who was the referee, didn't penalise Benn. He didn't even talk to him. I don't remember him ever berating Benn or saying stop that, otherwise I'll take a point. And then Benn tore after Barkley, absolutely tore after him. And but Barkley, being a warrior, and I mean, if you ever saw Iran Barkley fight, I mean, he lost about 19 fights, something like that, in his 21, 19, 20, 21, something like that. But he was just picking up paychecks at the end. He was a warrior. He was also a world champion and beat Thomas Hearns twice, including a knockout. Split decision in the rematch at light heavy, but I think it was super middle. He knocked out Thomas Hearns, having been beaten up by him, knocked him out in 3 rounds. Well, that was in 88. But Barkley then, immediately afterwards, I say immediately afterwards, it's probably about 9 months later. Probably it was in 89, maybe, I think. He fought Roberto Duran, Barkley did, in an absolute classic, and he lost a split decision. And Barkley actually boxed quite well. And I know Duran, of course, was really a lightweight who was reinvented and reborn at higher weights, and that was a middleweight. And Barkley was the WBC champ because the 3-round knockout of Hearns got him the WBC belt. And Duran, with all that craftiness, all that experience, managed to beat Duran on a split decision. And then I think he lost a majority decision, Barkley did, to Michael Nunn, and then came the 1-round destruction against Benn. So he lost 3 on the bounce, and yet came back to win other world titles. Amazing warrior, Iran Barkley. Win, lose or draw, he was an amazing fighter. Amazing to watch, Not the most skilled person, but a caveman. And in Nigel Benn, he met another caveman, because this wasn't a boxing match. This was a downright fight. This was a down and dirty fight. And like I say, within 20 seconds, Barkley was on the floor. He got up. Ben clocked him again. Should have had a point taken off, etc., etc. They get into it again, and Barkley's coming back, and he's hurting. He's shaking Ben. At one point, he shook Ben with the right hand, and Ben sort of staggered back to the ropes. It was very striking watching it because Ben had these sparkly black shorts on, and Barkley had like bright red or scarlet shorts, I think it was. So the two colours, I know it sounds like something so trivial, but it sticks in my mind because they were so obviously, they were like, and at times they were like two sort of, rams butting heads. They were like that. Big punches, no technique, just I'm going to get you out of there. You hit me, I'll hit you, blah, blah, blah. And next thing, after being shaken at least 2 or 3 times, Ben found another right hand that staggered Barkley. And Barkley, taller man, more gangly, he went down again for a second time. And he got clocked as well when he was on the floor. Now, without question, Ben should have had points taken off. If I was the ref, I would have probably said that's 2 points off, not 1. Because Ben did some naughtiness in the first 20 seconds. And when Barkley hit the deck again, Ben hit him when he was on the floor. Brazenly hit him when he was on the floor. And the commentary team was saying Ben should be disqualified. You can make a case for that. You can make a case for it. He certainly should have had points taken off. But Carlos Padilla didn't do it. And Carlos Padilla, it was towards the end of his career. He had some... He refereed a couple of the biggest fights ever. Was it Ali Fraser, the first one, was it? Or am I getting it wrong? Or was it Foreman Ali? I can't remember. But he was one of the most renowned referees in the world. But he got this one wrong. He had a mare on that day. And he didn't take points off Ben. He wiped off Barkley's gloves. Ben went after him again. Barkley was still swaying around. Ben hit him again. He sort of clubbed him to the floor. Barkley fell backwards, and that was the 3 knockdown rule. Well, that fight, in my opinion, regardless of the 3 knockdown rule, it shouldn't have been stopped because Barkley had something left. And the 3 knockdown rule, I don't really like it. I've never really liked it. Does it still exist? If so, it shouldn't, in my opinion. Because Barkley did have something left, even though he was wobbling. Because he shook Ben. I cannot emphasise enough, if you've never seen this fight, go and watch it. Because it lasted for... just under 3 minutes. It couldn't have been more than 2 or 3 seconds or 5 seconds left in the round. And they were swinging bombs. And it was just action-packed. I guarantee no one who'd paid money for those 3 minutes minus a few seconds asked for their money back. It was an incredible war. Absolute barn burner. So go and have a look at it and tell me what you think. Do you think Nigel Benn should have been disqualified? Because I think you can make a case for that. He certainly should have had points off. Let me know what you think. It was a great fight. One of Ben's, even though he was a bit naughty with the tactics, it was one of his best wins without question. Because having lost 3 on the bounce, like I said, Barkley then went on to beat Darren Van Horn for the IBF super middleweight title. He lost, I think he moved up, was it 175? He fought Hearns a second time, lost a split decision. And then eventually he was relieved of his IBF title by James Toney, a 9th round stoppage. I think it was a retirement. And I think he also fought Henry Masker for the IBF light heavyweight title. He retired after 9 rounds in that as well. That was he lost a few, and then towards the end of his career, he actually moved up to heavyweight at one point, which was ridiculous. And he was losing to people like Rocky Gannon, Tosca Pedrades. He was just collecting paychecks. Then he had a little run where he put together some wins over second raters. He did fight Jerry Coetzee, the South African heavyweight, when he moved up to heavyweight. And that was like 2 guys who were way, way past their best. And Barkley got a 10th round stoppage over Coetzee, which I suppose on paper it looks all right. But he wasn't going to make a splash at heavyweight. He was too small. And he went on just picking up. I think he must have lost about his last 6 fights, something like 7, 8 fights. But he was a warrior. And I think he was a 3-weight world champ as well. He's certainly middleweight, super middleweight. And was it the WBA title he won at light heavy? I'll have to check on that. But go and have a look at this fight. Nigel Benn versus Iran Barkley. You will not be disappointed. Terrific tear up. action-packed, one of the greatest opening rounds, or certainly one of the greatest one-round fights ever. Go and have a look at it and tell me what you think. All right. Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel as well if you're new, because you're helping us out. You're a good person. You're going to subscribe to the channel and spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'll catch you later. Bye for now.